what you're saying, because you're speaking truth out there. And before the broadcast, we were talking about Trump 2020, and you said, hey, you know what, 2024. I believe that, absolutely. So let's talk about that. 1871, what happened then, and perhaps what can happen now?
Listen, this is above my pay grade. I'm just going by what I've been researching a little bit here. You know what I mean? The Act of 1871, when they formed the Corporation of Washington, D.C., and if people don't know, the District of Columbia is another name for Bail. So it's actually the District of Bail. So when people always say, because I always wonder, why in the world do these guys lose all their brain matter? You got good people go up there and they get to DC and they literally just lose their brain matter. They just go off the deep end. It's because it's the District of Bail. That's what it was labeled as, right? So when they go up there and they say, well, we'll go up to a politician, we'll say, well, you work for us, we the people. And they can legally say, no, we don't. We work for the corporation. Because the Act of 1871, when they formed the corporation, if you will, we have not had a president basically since 1871. And so what they all have been are CEOs of the corporation. So if President Trump and his 4-year tenure here, now there's certain things that have to be done in order for, to take down the corporation, if that's what he's doing, you know what I mean? So there's been a lot of talk about that. That's what he is in fact doing. Certain things have to be in place. Some things have to be taken down. Some things have to be put up, because you can't just dissolve a corporation and then have everything implode on itself.
Sure.
So he's had 4 years to basically do this. So is he doing this? Has he done it? Nobody really knows. But if he does dissolve the corporation, that means he's no longer the CEO of the United States of America. It goes under the organic constitution called the United States for America. He becomes the first president for the United States for America since 1871, which means he would get 2 terms.
Come on now.
So I don't know if that's going to happen. It's a theory. I'm kind of floating around out there, so I'll leave that in the people's hands. You know what I mean? They can research that on their own.
Sure. Well, I remember us talking about that before, 2 terms, and
Right.
boy, would that be the mother of all bombs to everyone, right?
Well, and look, there's been a lot of prophetic voices saying that Pence was going to get after Trump. Pence would serve 2 terms.
Right.
And I'm not trying to come against those prophetic voices at all, or any disrespect with these guys. I would not do that. But there was a time I thought Pence could probably get 2 terms. God has not shown me anything on Pence. Everybody always asks me, what do you think about Pence? Because there's been a lot of things said about Pence, but there's really been no proof. And that's the whole thing about this. So God's not shown me anything on Pence, but I will say this. I don't see Pence being president after Trump. I just, for some reason, I don't know. I could be wrong on that. God has not shown me anything on it. That's just my humble opinion of what I'm just sensing. I don't see it happening, because you got to remember, who's going to follow in Trump's footsteps after all of this?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It has to be someone that's,
It has to be someone that is going to be huge. It's got to be someone who's going to be dynamic and who has the same heart that this president has, because the American people the Patriots aren't going to allow that to happen. You know what I mean?
oh,
And so it's probably going to have to be another Trump, to be honest with you.
sure.
So,
JFK, or maybe.
well, it's like I was saying with Donald Trump Jr. I know at some point we'll probably be in the White House. The Lord was showing me that it could be a junior ticket. Now, with that dream he gave me, but doesn't necessarily mean that JFK Jr. is alive or he's dead, even though I didn't see, but I knew it was JFK Jr. I think God was just putting an emphasis on junior. I mean, it could be any junior out there that hasn't come on the scene yet. So,
Sure.
but you got to ask yourself, who's going to follow in Trump's footsteps, because those are huge footsteps to follow in right there, man.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. Absolutely. And you just saw something in regards to Flynn and
suspending the Constitution. I can't verify that. That was on Yahoo, so it might be fake news.
Yeah.
They're gonna follow it up. They're gonna distort it, whatever it is.
So do you think it's about the Constitution, Mark, or maybe the martial law?
It could be probably the martial law stuff, because El Linwood was talking about martial law. You had General Flynn got pardoned, which is the good news, which is awesome news.
And that's a full pardon, right?
That was a full pardon. And so I think the gag order has been lifted. He can speak whatever he wants. You've seen Mary and Joe Flynn on some other shows with Chris and stuff like that. They've been speaking out, of what's been happening with their family and keeping people updated. But the general came out the other day with his first interview right after the pardon, and with General McInerney.
Mhm.
And General Flynn is a wealth of knowledge anyway. And so this, to me, and I said this on prior shows before his pardon, that when General Flynn is released, when he's whatever it is, if it's a pardon or whether it went before the Supreme Court, whatever it was, that the spirit of truth was being held hostage. That's what he represented. And so he's been pardoned. So the spirit of truth has been released. Well, what are we seeing right now dropping in the news? We can't, there's so much truth dropping right now. We can't even keep track of it right now at this point with the election. And we know that the election is leading to other things, other people. And so General McInerney came on in that same interview, and he was talking about how that there needed to be mass arrests and military tribunals right now. And I mean, where have we heard that before? God has been telling us for almost 5 years almost that there would be mass arrests and there would be military tribunals. So this shouldn't really be catching anybody off guard that this is happening right now, because we knew about this. God told us 4 or 5 years ago. But that's the point, that all this is where this is going, guys. When you've got these high level generals like this saying that this stuff's happening, that the mass arrests need to be taking place, military tribunals. You just had L. Linwood coming out saying we need to have martial law in effect in some spots. I mean, that's a very high level attorney right there, right next to Sidney Powell. These guys are not going to spout something off that they don't know ahead of time what they're saying, because they don't want to be held legally liable for something like that. But so, and you've seen the president kind of be a little bit quiet, in the background while all this is taking place. And we all know that's probably for optics.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the president has a huge rally coming up December 5th. Some have said, well, is that D5 that, that our friend here was talking about?
Right.
And so we don't know, we really don't. We just know that this rally is going to be huge. And it's going to be right in the enemy's back door, right in his backyard. And so, but there's going to be a lot come out of this. The truth is coming out. The governors, they're showing themselves now as to who China owned, because you go back to Secretary Pompeo when he came out at that governor's conference. They said, we've got all you guys as to basically who's on that list from the CCP. Exactly. So now the American public's beginning to see who is part of the CCP, who is taking monies. So there's a lot of stuff dropping right now. And one of the things I want to talk about real quick is every time something happens, everybody freaks. A.G. Barr came out. The news was that he had said, he didn't see any voter evidence. Well, that ended up being fake news. Everyone needs to kind of give stuff about 24 hours to simmer and to make sure that what you're hearing is in fact correct or incorrect, because there is more disinformation right now, I believe, than what there is information coming out. Because look, the mainstream media has nothing to lose at this point. They are complicit in a coup against a duly elected president. And so they are going to go down for treason. They know it. The enemy knows it. Biden and these guys know it. It's over with. This election was over with November 3rd. It just has to play out right now, so that the people can learn just how deep and bad this fraud and this corruption actually is. So be careful what you listen to right now. Be careful what you send out on social media right now. It's so hard, guys. We've all been caught up in it where we shared something that wasn't true because, we read it because, and so we think it's a vetted source when in fact it wasn't. You know what I mean? It's very hard right now. I've got investigative reporter friends right now that tell me that say, look, it's even hard for us to vet stuff right now in this information age, because there's such a flood of information and disinformation. It's hard to find out what's actually true and what's not. So just be careful what sources you're listening to right now.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I have to repent. I was one of those that wrote something on social media in regards to Bill Barr, because I associated him with the Bushes, because he was a part
Right.
of the Bushes. And so I kind of put that out there, that, hey, you know what, I kind of didn't trust him. I had to kind of, weigh this out and everything. So, but you're absolutely right. We have to vet before we go ahead on emotion. And,
yeah. It's hard, guys. It's really hard because, I mean, it is very hard because we have such a flood of information at our fingertips right here. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's just a deluge. I mean, how many apps do we have on our phone for social media where we're just getting bombarded with this information? And so, go ahead, Alan. Sorry, brother.
No, I mean, they're putting all that money into Gitmo for a reason. I mean, something's coming down.
Sure.
Well, I think we're going to need a bigger Gitmo. So, and look, it's not by coincidence they just came out and legalized the firing squad, death by firing squad too. By the way.
Yeah, right.
And the gas.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, Mark, for those that don't know what martial law looks like, what does martial law look like?
Well, I think I don't know the actual definition of it, but I just know that it's a lockdown that nobody's going anywhere at that point. If you're in a big city, I don't think that I mean, I could be wrong. They could declare martial law for the whole country. You know, if they've got ops going on. I think it's just going to be for certain parts here and there that they would do that. I mean, maybe not. Maybe it's the whole country. I have no clue, guys. I really don't. We just need to be prepared for whatever. You know what I mean? Just you need to make sure you got about 2 weeks to 30 days of food on hand, just in case, especially if you're in one of these hot zones.
Oh my gosh, yeah,